How's everybody doing? Yay! Oh, I love it. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us tonight. We have a couple of very special guests, one of which I'm going to introduce. We'll introduce the man of the hour. So please join me in welcoming David Leaf, American writer, director, thank you, and producer who is best known for his associations with Brian Wilson and the Beach Boys since the late 1970s. Give it up for David Leaf.
This is an exciting night. As you just heard, my name is David Leaf. I'm an author, a filmmaker, and a professor at the UCLA Herb Alpert School of Music, where one of the 4 courses I teach is called The Real Beatles, R-E-E-L. Our guest tonight knows more about one real Beatle than anybody on the planet, I think. I'm really honored to be here tonight to introduce our special guest, because he truly is special. He has had a remarkable career because he is a remarkable person. He asked me to be here tonight because we're friends, in part because we've worked together, and perhaps most significantly because I was the co-writer, producer, and director of the U.S. versus John Lennon. And those of us who are baby boomers, and I can see a few of you out there, for whom the Beatles were our gods, are our gods, we truly can't even begin to imagine, pun intended, the life Elliot Mintz has lived, the experiences he has had, the people he calls friends, the people who take his guidance, the people who we all admire so much. And like everybody who has achieved greatness, his career began modestly. But because of who he is and the passions he had, it quickly became evident that Elliot was going to be somebody to be listened to, whether it was on local radio in Los Angeles, on television, on KABC, and as you'll read in his book, on the telephone or in a very special chair at the Dakota. Nobody has been on the inside longer than he has. And finally, again, as you'll read, he has decided to share some of these extraordinary memories. Please welcome my friend and the author of this remarkable new book, We All Shine On, Mr. Elliot Mintz.
I haven't faced this many people live since my bar mitzvah. I mean, it's one thing to be in a little room, and talking to a microphone on radio or to do something on Facebook, but to do this, well, thank you all for coming. Are you comfortable? Do you feel good?
Yeah.
David, thank you for those remarks, as usual, more than I deserve, but have at me.
We can have that argument another time. So I want to start off with this question that struck me when I heard that this book was happening. You have been so close to 2 of the most impactful and famous artists of their time and of all time. I would guess that part of the reason for your enduring friendship was that John and Yoko trusted you with the truth and that you wouldn't reveal anything that they didn't want out in public. So my first question is, why now?
It's a good question. 2 things happened in my life. I went to visit Yoko and Sean for Yoko's birthday. And during that visit, Sean had once again urged me that if I was to ever write a book, this would be the time to do it. And another thing happened during that particular visit. I'm born on February 16th, Yoko was on February 18th. The other thing that occurred was I turned 79. Still not thrilled with that? But nevertheless, I figured, if not now, when? And if I wasn't doing this right now, I'd be sharing this with you via Ouija board. So that's the reason that now is the time.
There are probably well over 1,000, maybe 2,000 books on the Beatles or the individual Beatles. But there is a special intimacy to this book. It feels like every sentence, every paragraph, every page, you tell us something we wouldn't otherwise know. Were you a diarist during the 1970s, or did this come from just memory?
As difficult as this is for many people to accept, I never recorded any of my telephone calls with John and Yoko unless we were on the radio. I mean, do you record conversations with friends of yours? I never kept a journal. I never kept a diary. I never kept notes. Do you with your best friends on the telephone? You know, I figured that we would be yapping forever. However, my memory of those experiences during this period that I was writing the book, let me just frame this a different way. Have you ever had a conversation with somebody that you loved, who was meaningful in your life, that you just never forgot? Word for word. Husband, wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever it might be. It was there. It was indelible. And it would be forever. And that's what stuck. And that's what I typed out of my laptop with 2 fingers for the past year.
Well, it's as I said, it's quite extraordinary. You began your career as a broadcast journalist here in local stations, public radio. By the time you first interviewed Yoko, you had interviewed quite a few remarkable people, Jack Nicholson and Groucho Marx, just to name a few legends. How did that help you the first time you spoke with Yoko?
A good question, as all of yours are. David didn't share any of his questions with me before we came out here today. I wanted it to be purely spontaneous. Yeah, I interviewed probably 1,000 people during my radio and television days. And I interviewed a bunch of well-known people. I became de-celebritized. I just tried to meet people in the present moment. There were a couple of people the first time you get on the phone with them or you meet them or shake hands where you say, well, this is so-and-so. But as the conversation unfolds, we all shine on. We're all the same. We all respond to the same disappointments and the same sense of conviviality and love. So, yeah, the first time I spoke with Yoko, the first time I spoke with John, I did think of the celebrity factor. That dissipated quickly, and it was just one-to-one friends.
Can you put a pin in what it was in that first conversation with Yoko that made her call you and say thank you and thank you and thank you, why she wanted to keep talking to you? What was it about that conversation?
Of course, you'd have to ask Yoko. But my guess is I really wanted to know, should I be talking to you or should I be talking to the audience?
I think the audience.
Oh,
Pretend I'm not here.
you are here. We're all here. That first conversation with Yoko was just an experience I'll never forget. I never spoke with anyone who was that original in their thinking, who was so immediately captivating and inspiring and optimistic. She has maintained that optimism to this moment. To this moment. Yoko is very much with us, perhaps in this room as well. I was mesmerized by her. I had never met anybody like her. And we went on and talked and talked and talked for the next 40 years.
It seems almost impossible, but John has been gone longer than he was alive. Sean is now older than John was when he was murdered. As you look back on this time that you so beautifully capture in the book, what do you think, as you were typing on your two-finger typing, what do you think is the most surprising thing that came out of your heart and your soul and your brain and onto that screen that you said, "Oh, the readers are going to really love this"?
Based upon my conversations with John,
Based on anything that's in the book.
I really tried to express in the book how human John was, with his foibles, his accomplishments. He called himself a working class hero, and he was. And when he sang, "Who on earth do you think you are? A superstar? Well, right you are." So what I wanted to try and communicate was the John Lennon beyond Beatledom, beyond celebrity, and to cut to the core. That's what I loved about him, and I have a feeling that most of you in this room made that connection too. You saw beyond the makeup. By the way, we're being videotaped. I don't usually have this on my face. Shopping at Ralph's, but it's just the nature of the experience.
The John that the public knows as an artist, there's all sorts of stories. He was certainly a searcher. What was one of the favorite moments that you observed that when you were observing it was so surreal that you were like, I cannot believe I'm in this situation?
Every time somebody asks me that question, something else comes to my mind, a new memory. And just now, we were in Kyoto, Japan. They were kind enough to invite me to join them on a trip to Japan. And we were at one of the holy shrines that people visit. And you know that John's relationship with organized religion and John's relationship with God, a little sketchy. I think that's a polite way of putting it. But we stood in front of this line. There's a picture of us together at one of these temples where you post little wishes or horoscopes on the screen, on the string, and you stand there for a moment and observe. And I looked over and I saw what appeared to me as John in prayer. There's a photo of it in the book. You can see it. And I just wondered what ran through his mind at that moment.
you mentioned his relationship with organized religion, which certainly got him into an enormous amount of trouble in the United States. There's a moment in the book that strikes me as it's almost hilarious, because there were maybe 3 people on the planet who had ever suggested how John might rewrite a song. That would be Paul McCartney, Sir Paul McCartney, Sir George Martin, and Yoko Ono. Would you tell us about the song God and what happened?
Do I have to?
No, you don't have to.
Yes, you
This
do.
is your night. You can pass.
Are all of you familiar with a classic Lennon song called God? Of course. And in it, John lists this litany of figures where he says he does not believe in, and you name the people, the beings, and they're all in the list. And he didn't believe in Krishna, and he didn't believe in Bibles, and he didn't believe in Taro, and he didn't believe in I Ching, and he didn't believe in Zimmerman, and he didn't believe in Elvis, and he didn't believe in Beatles. I mean, virtually it could have gone on forever. And he shared this song with me. And I had the dumb idea of just making a suggestion to John. I said, look, this may be more effective if you had written or sang. You might not believe. You might not believe. And ended with, I just believe in me. In Yoko and me. That's reality. That was my suggestion as to how John might want to revise the song. I don't want to tell you exactly what he said to me about that suggestion, but rest assured I never ever suggested to John how the lyrics could be improved upon.
It's a great story. It's just a wonderful story. There are a million stories like that in the book. Let's talk a little bit about Yoko. When you met her, she was well aware that even though it wasn't true, she was the woman who was being blamed for breaking up the Beatles. What are the insights that people will get reading the book that will inform people and how